Explosions ripping through southern Beirut amid Israeli airstrikes targeting the man who led Hezbollah for more than 30 years. Israel announcing the death of Hassan Nasrallah, as well as other top commanders belonging to the terror group. Hezbollah confirming his death. The UN now saying over 50,000 Lebanese people have crossed into Syria, fleeing from those airstrikes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seen ordering the airstrike from his New York City hotel room just before giving a fiery speech to the UN, arguing that Israel must defend itself from the terror group's incessant missile strikes. It was a speech that, unsurprisingly, many UN leaders walked out of in protest. Retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert joins me now. It's no secret that the UN is not a fan of Netanyahu, but how big of a blow was the killing of Hezbollah's top leader?
Adrienne, like you said, he has been responsible for operations in Hezbollah for the last 30 years. But I think what has been done to Hezbollah in the last week and a half, with layers and layers of their leaders of their southern forces, their rocket forces, their drone forces, their elite forces, means that right now Hezbollah is in disarray. And not only has Israel been striking those leadership targets, but we don't believe that there's likely much command and control capability from Hezbollah. And Israel has attacked missiles and rockets and various weapons depots. And right now it's tough for Hezbollah to even conceptualize how they could fight back because they don't have the command and control systems to do so.
What about their backing by Iran? What kind of response do you think we'll see there?
I think it's interesting, Adrienne, that Iran hasn't even responded to the July attack on the Hamas leader in downtown Tehran, largely because they know that Israel can strike targets at will wherever they want, including in downtown Tehran. And Israel has demonstrated that they can defend against attacks from Iran and their proxies. And so I think right now Iran sees it as in their best interest to step back. And I suspect that they're talking to Hezbollah, whatever leadership chain exists right now, to try to convince them that in order for them to survive, they need to meet the Israeli demands to pull back from the border of Israel and stop firing into Israel from southern Lebanon.
You know, I think about how much closer those Lebanese strikes have come into Israel. It's almost like being poked in the eye for this country that has seen the Iron Dome deflect so many of these missile strikes that are coming from the Houthis and the Hezbollah militants. But in terms of the response by other groups that are Iranian-backed, like the Houthis, who launched a missile just a few hours ago from Yemen, will those kinds of strikes escalate?
We have seen Israel face strikes from all corners for the last 11 to 12 months. And that includes from Iranian-backed groups in Syria and Iraq. That includes from the Houthis, of course, from Hamas and Hezbollah. And I think they're going to continue. But I think Israel has a very credible defense. And now they're demonstrating against Hezbollah and likely to others that if you start to strike them and you draw blood, then Israel is going to use the full force of the Israeli military to strike back.
Yeah, without really any warning or any announcements. Let's hear from Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. Here's what he had to say about those strikes.
The United States was not involved in Israel's operation. We had no advance warning. My call with Minister Gallant took place while the operation was actually already underway.
Does this basically signal a different point in the conversations between Israel and the U.S.? Have they repeatedly asked for a ceasefire for the fighting in Gaza and then recently talked about a ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel?
We've seen the United States and Secretary Austin say similar things based on the strike from July in Tehran or in Beirut. I don't think it signals anything substantially different from the United States, but I do think, like Netanyahu said in the United Nations yesterday, that they're going to degrade Hezbollah until Israel achieves its objectives because Israel has no other choice. And I think that now they see the initiative on their side. They're going to keep going until those objectives are achieved, which is pushing back Hezbollah north of the border, returning those Israeli civilians up to 80,000 back to their homes in northern Israel, and degrading Hezbollah since that maybe for decades now, they won't be able to form a credible fighting force or a threat against Israel.
Let's also listen to Prime Minister Netanyahu speaking, addressing the UN just after declaring that that missile strike would take place, or rather making the call. Let's listen.
For too long, The world has appeased Iran. It turns a blind eye to its internal repression. It turns a blind eye to its external aggression. Well, that appeasement must end. And that appeasement must end now.
From your military expertise, what is the next step? Obviously, Israel is not backing down in terms of defensive moves, and it looks as though any of these terror groups have no incentive to stop fighting. So who's got the next move on the chessboard?
Right now, Israel is going to continue to press their advantage, expecting that Iran's going to stay on the sidelines because they are overmatched by Israel conventionally. And right now, Hezbollah is essentially decapitated. And Israel is going to continue to fight, to take out those missile launchers, to take out those rockets, to take out those drones, to continue to decapitate until at some point, Hezbollah realizes it's in their best interest to pull back before they're completely decimated. And I do suspect that Iran right now, seeing Israel's success in the last week and a half, is nudging Hezbollah to meet Israeli demands just for the survival of Hezbollah itself.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.